everybody. This is Margaret. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for stopping by. I'm here today, whatever day it is. I don't know when this will fit into my schedule, but I'm doing the tag now before it gets too late. I was tagged by Roz at Scallywangling About the Books and Brian by Bookish for this tag, the Self-Aware tag, which is originally by Courtney Ferreter, and I'll put her and their channels down below. So the Self-Aware Reader tag, it's going to be a chatty video. So, question number 1, what most draws you into a novel or story and makes you want to keep reading? Plot, characters, writing style, atmosphere, or something else? So for me, I said it's a twist, it's the unexpected, it's the extraordinary in the voice. It can be in describing the setting, or in the subject of dialogue, or in the intro of a character. So if it sounds like a book I've read before, it's not going to capture my attention. It needs to have some sort of unusual aspect for me to really get drawn in right away. But in terms of which writing device it takes to do that, I am not particular. I'm pretty forgiving too. Okay, question number 2. What is a convention or trope that will immediately turn you off in your reading experience with a novel or story? So, I read some romance novels, mostly historical romance, and the one that I've stopped reading, I mean, you can never know what it is in advance, but the one that really annoys me, and I end up eating it across the room, is when there's a misunderstanding that is just elongated and like stretched out for no reason, just to extend the conflict and tension, and it's very silly, and I'm just annoyed by it now. Putting down minority characters as stereotypes. What did I mean by this? Putting down... Oh, yeah, using a token minority character as a stereotype and not really exploring or giving them the depth that you give your main characters who are assumed to be white. That is a turn off. And extended POV in a misogynist character. So if you're writing in a time when...
Hey, we still have misogyny.
But if you're writing in a time when assumptions were different than what they are now, and you're in the perspective of someone who thinks it's right to beat their wife, for example, and you're in their head for an extended period of time, and like, I don't like being there, so if something's not worth it, then I don't appreciate that, and I'll put it down. Question number 3. What most appeals to you when reading nonfiction and makes you want to keep reading? So I actually thought about this. This must have been brewing in the back of my mind because I brought it up in a different video. It's, I said, nonfiction that relates the subject matter to the author's discovery of it, and a style that teaches in a non-condescending and non-wonky way. So this is all very subjective because condescending is different for different people, usually, and wonkiness is different levels for different people as well. So what I really like is if the author sort of has a way of bringing you along with their discovery of it, kind of like if you're a character who's new to a place in a fiction novel, and that gives you an excuse to explain the customs of that country, then for a nonfiction, you want to have a speaker or a narrator or a tone or a voice that is bringing you along at a, I don't know what they would determine to be average, but whoever their audience is, the average speed at which they can absorb that information. And a good way to do that for me is to use metaphors to other disciplines. So if you're like talking about something in science and you like bring in a dance metaphor, or if you're talking about something in history and you reference something contemporary but in like an interesting way, that helps me sort of get into it and understand it in side angle ways rather than just absorbing information, which I don't really like to do. So, question number 4. What is a convention or trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? Repetition. Too many graphs. I'm not a graphical person, so I just sort of skip over them unless they're referred to in the text. Is that bad? An article length idea stretched into 300 pages. So there's a whole, I guess it goes across subgenres of nonfiction, but there's several subgenres that I don't really read anymore because they now have a reputation with me of taking a small article and stretching it to 300 pages so they can get $26 for a hardcover, and that doesn't earn my money. So, yeah, business ideas, and sort of Malcolm Gladwell wannabes are like, no, I'll watch your TED Talk for 18 minutes, but I'm not going to read 300 plus pages of this and pay for that. So, no. Question number 5. Would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment or more to learn and exercise your brain? Okay, so for this one, I had to cheat and say that learning brings me pleasure. I mean, come on. If I'm not allowed to cheat and say that, I would say that right now I'm in a stretch of reading that is more for self-improvement than pleasure. I said as self-education starts at home, especially in my projected readings for the month. I will outline, a book for research, a book for growth. Goodreads shelf, they're labeled personal growth, and that's basically like things outside of my experience that will help me understand other perspectives or be more knowledgeable about something, which I should be. I think I should be. Those types of books, especially this year, are sort of heavily in the rotation, and then sort of when I'm craving something or feeling in between books or just feeling like tired of reading the same, maybe it's a ranty type, maybe it's a very heavy, hard to digest facts type, I'll, go for a romance or go for a fiction, something that's pretty easy, young adult maybe. I don't know how I answered that question or not, but moving on. Question number 6. Which type of books are you likely to rate more highly and enjoy more overall? Brain candy books or brain protein books? So brain candy I can easily enjoy, but I won't rate as highly because I consider myself a pretty easy customer in terms of expectations of a certain genre and succeeding in meeting them. So, like, for example, in romance, I have come across a handful of romance that I would give 5 stars, but it's because it reaches beyond the genre. I'm not sure why this is, other than writing to a formula seems easier to me, so I don't want to give out all my stars because I have all the power in this relationship as a customer of books. No, not really. Historical fiction, I mean, if it's something that's not my time period and it still reaches out and really captures my attention and the story, then I'll probably give it more because I realize that it's reaching outside of its audience. Sci-fi fantasy, I don't think I give many 5-star reads, although Laini Taylor. Yeah, I don't know why. What is a 5-star read? Her books are dealing with personal issues and psychology and mental health, as well as being an intricately constructed world, as well as bringing in other books that she's written in the same universe, as well as being gorgeous descriptions and having lots of emotional turmoil for characters to get past and work through. So it's almost like she takes a lot of things from different genres that they're known for and puts them in this sci-fi fantasy book, or fantasy book. So that's why I think it's I think it's a matter of exceeding the expectations for the genre or the pigeonhole that we put these books in. So if it's a classic, it's already up there, so I grade it more harshly, and that could be considered a brain protein book. But if it's a genre book that's just really excellent, I go, wow, that's better than I expected. So a lot depends on expectations, just like in life. When I was writing this up, I said, usually my 5-star reads are a combination of an emotional connection in the story and outstanding quality of writing and or subject matter originality. So that's kind of what I went through. Question number 7, do you have a sense early on whether or not the book you're reading will be a 5-star read or a book you will really like? Has a book ever surprised you in this regard? Well, I try not to judge as I go, just like I can't predict the ending in movies halfway through. But if something is lukewarm to start, I may DNF it before I'm surprised. I usually go 50 pages easily into a book before I'm sort of thinking. Unless there's a hard no, I usually go pretty far into it going, this is okay, let's see where it goes, and just following it. I can't think of an example where I made a face at how it started and then was amazed by the ending. The opposite is more likely, as the beginning of a book is probably more likely to be polished by the editing and marketing teams, Oh, I guess what I'm saying is I don't often have a sense at the very beginning of whether I will really like the book. Is that true? Maybe not true in nonfiction. The populism book I didn't know I would like going in because it's not all shiny and sparkly, is it? I think I probably prejudge things a little bit by cover and hearsay, and then sort of take it on its own merit as soon as I'm 50 to 100 pages in. But if you make a bad impression to start, it's not likely that it will improve. That's probably true. One major exception, I went back to look at my list and I read Blackout by Connie Willis, and that ending, nope. I thought it was going to be good, but then, nope. That is the last book that made me, like, shout aloud in an empty room. Nope. Okay, question number 8. Considering books that you've rated 5 stars in the past, or if you don't rate them, books that you've really loved, do you think you would feel the same way about them now? Why or why not? I would probably feel different, but I remember the feeling of reading them then, and I feel like I will let that connection stand. My ratings, I mean, they're just Goodreads. I guess Amazon has them as well. They're just Goodreads ratings, and they're just for me. I'm planning on just switching over to Storygraph, and so it'll be even more just for me and less of a value statement on the author. So in terms of my charting my own experience and recording my own reactions and impressions of books, like, why would I, unless I reread it, why would I change that? I just let it stand, and that will remind me of what I thought then. I think sometimes it's difficult to remember how we thought differently in the past, and so Goodreads now has a way where you can say you've read it again. And I don't know if they can give you, I think you have to stick with one rating for the book, but you can explain in the notes that, hey, first time was great, second time not so great, which is interesting. All right, number 9 is tag people. So I'm going to tag Tori from Hufflepuff Discovery and Danny from Spinelli Speaks, even though she's going to be super involved with the holiday Vlogmas videos, Jill at the Book Bully, and Laura at the Book Bubbler. So hope you enjoy responding to this tag and sort of mulling over these things. I had a couple weeks to do this since I was tagged. If you haven't done this yet but are interested by Courtney's questions, feel free to go ahead. All right, see you next time.